gentlemen, welcome here as we get ready for the second race of the season for the 2020B Fuel Racetrack Designs IndyCar Series. Here at Homestead Miami Speedway road course configuration, I'm Seth Cole alongside Samuel Dyers. We're getting ready to go green here. I guess we could call this Sam Races 2A and 2B because it's two road course races tonight.
It really is. Nicholas Johnston and Riley Thompson, your front row, and we are green here for the first 20 laps of the A race here today. And this race is going to be a 20-lap stint. But right now, Nicholas Johnston, Riley Thompson, great launch for both of them. They're going to be the cars to watch out for. Everyone else from third on back, they're all clustered up.
All these drivers coming to the first road course stop of the season off the heels of the first speedway race, which of course was last week at Twin Ring Motegi. We saw Jason Brophy go to victory lane there. He's currently riding in that fourth position, trying to extend his points lead.
And right now, heavy contact in the back. That is going to be Munoz, I believe. Yeah, that was Roberto Munoz who got absolutely shoved out of the way, and a lot of contact made for some of the cars up front.
Sarah Tessum got a piece of that as well in the 70 machine.
More cars having issues. Will Roberts around. Rubeck has no front end.
Oh, they're still wrecking up ahead of them there, too. There's a number of drivers, and they're going to have to throw a full course yellow for this. There were about 5-6 drivers in the span of two corners that were all sideways.
Evan Adams looked like he might have been the catalyst. I mean, he wasn't the catalyst. There were cars spun out in front of him, I should say. I think it was Rubeck who he spun it around and everyone else in front of him. I think he got into the grass when he tried to slow down, just threw his car into the wall, and car just starts trying to spin out everywhere, trying to avoid him.
27 of Will Roberts is back here. Finished 11th last week at Motegi. Not sure if he got involved or don't see a lot of damage on his machine. Curtis Yancey up ahead is missing the left front wing on his Ally 51 car.
Yeah,
there's probably quite a number of others that have some slight cosmetic damage. Oh, we got another car that's just wrecked here under pacing. That's Brent Jones in the 49.
Oh, no. You don't want to be trying to wreck under caution here under pacing laps. But Brent Jones, just a mental relapse here early on.
We'll go back, see if we can find out, pinpoint where all of this started. As I said, we're about maybe 5-6 cars all blocking up the track, all facing the wrong directions, and of course then no choice. Normally at a road course we don't see full course yellows come out, but this one apparently was definitely warranting of one.
Oh, it really was. This first section to two sections of this course is so narrow for these drivers. If one car spins around, it practically is going to cost everyone else, and it doesn't help that there are some other drivers in here that are having some internet issues, so they're blinking in and out. You really don't know where they're going to be at, but that was not the initial reason for the spin out. It's just all these drivers, I messaged them earlier on asking how they feel about this course, and almost every single person was saying this is a handful, and this track is tough. It's slick, it's flat. There's not a lot of really help in this course. It's just a hard road course for all these drivers out here, and you saw in that first lap just how difficult it is.
You saw right there, Chandler Rubeck was the one kind of sitting in the middle of the track and kind of led to most of these wrecks happening, with Curtis Yancey getting spun by Evan Adams. You see right there how Will Roberts tried to get on the brakes, and as soon as he did, back end of the car completely snaps him around, facing 180 degrees the wrong way.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you kind of saw the front group of drivers just take off, go cleanly, and then everyone else from about 5th or 6th back were just all clustered up, and they were trying to figure out how to get single file and get going, and it was so difficult for everyone to get into sync there, and multiple spins early on in this race. It's only a 20-lap stint. These drivers don't need to come into the pits for tires or fuel. All the machines that are coming in this time are coming in for damage reasons, so a lot of these machines, like we said, this is the first of two races tonight for these drivers. We're doing a 20-lapper here at the road course at Homestead, and then we'll do another 30 laps immediately after this course, and that one will have a pit stop.
Two things I saw there with the incidents all in that area of the racetrack. Aside from the contact between Evan Adams and Curtis Yancey, the other two incidents that we showed you, the 27 of Will Roberts and the 01 of Chandler Rubeck, looked like drivers not realizing what the brake bias is able to do. They slammed on the brakes. As soon as they did, the car snapped around on him. We saw it sent Will Roberts into the sand trap, and for Curtis Yancey, he was hard on the brakes to avoid running to the back of the car in front of him, and that's what snapped him to the right into the wall.
I mean, that's not even bringing up our first car that had an incident, and that's going to be Roberto Munoz, who basically coming around turn number 3 got pushed off of the track and spun around and made contact with other vehicles. So a lot of narrow parts in this first section, and we didn't even get these drivers on the speedway section. That's the end of this course. So I'll have to wait and see how these drivers can react and if we can get through the first section this time cleanly.
Yeah, iRacing's got 2 different road course configurations here at Homestead Miami Speedway. Tonight they're running the B version of the road course, which is 11 corners. And as you alluded to, turns 10 and 11 are NASCAR turns 3 and 4, leading down to the start-finish line, which is what the cars are on currently, the back straightaway heading down to those final 2 corners. Very similar to what we saw these drivers at when we were at the Indianapolis road course last season, that kind of a Roval type track.
Pace car lights are off. We're going to be going this time by as the drivers are entering turn 10 and entering now turn 11. One car got an EOL. That's going to be Mike Hurley, who's going to be put all the way to the back because of his internet issues. So the 32 will be starting at the end of the line.
Rodrigo Munoz sits on pit road, still trying to get damage repaired. Chandler Rubeck's day is done. He is out of the event. Right now, we got 22 cars ready to take the green flag back on the restart on lap 4.
Great restarts for everyone except for Jason Brophy, who's now getting challenged by Mitch Welker now on the outside coming into turn number 1.
I remember we talked to Brophy last week in Victory Lane at Motegi, and he said the one thing he needs to work on this season is the road course program. He knows he can get it done at the speedways, but he's got to keep that consistency going on at the road course configured tracks.
Yeah, this 88 machine is really doing a lot better. Qualified 4th for this first race, and he's really doing a lot better than what I was expecting him to do. We saw last season Jason Brophy lingering around 10th and 11th most of the season at a road course. Right now, starting up high with a lot of these new faces.
Right now, your top 5 are names we know from last year. The defending champ, Nicholas Johnston, Riley Thompson, Kite Bommersbach, Mitch Welker, and Jason Brophy. But you mentioned new faces. How about David Kolb up here? A good run in the 6th position in his first start of the year.
Cars that are side by side, he's going to be the battle for 12th. You got Don Hunter going up against Eric Gonzalez, and it's going to be Hunter that's going to win out that position for 11th.
A little bit further up, you've got Cass Silman, pulled off Mitchell Riggs. Silman finished 8th last week at Motegi, and Mitchell Riggs, I believe, is making his first start of the season as we have a car back here off course. That's Will Roberts again in the 27. Same corner that he spun around in earlier. Gets the car refired, though. No caution, but he lost a number of spots.
Yeah, it looked like he was being challenged on the inside by Halaba, and Will Roberts got into the grass, and it was safe for him to stop where he was at instead of getting back on course just because of how much traffic was coming in.
Well, these 2 cars right here, the green 02 of Matt Halaba and the red 41 of Danny Roberts right behind him, were on pit road under the last caution. So they've got some fresher tires to work with. That's why they're being aggressive, trying to fight through the field. Danny Roberts snaps around there right in front of Sarah Tessum. He gets it refired, though. He was working up to the front, and he dropped from 15th all the way back to 18th place now.
That just shows getting onto the gas a little bit too strong off exit can really spin your car out just because how light these machines are and how much power they have. If you just get on the gas a little too quick, it will just snap it around.
We're 3 wide there going into this corner. That was Matt Halaba, Don Hunter, Mike Rigney all in that 3 wide situation. They settled it out, fortunately, but they're still pretty bunched up going through the road course section.
Yeah, Rigney almost got pushed completely off course by Hunter, but able to still stay there and challenged by Halaba, who's going to make that pass. And now you've got Sarah Tessum, who's going to be diving it in with half a wing.
Yikes.
That's 70 machines trying to do some pretty aggressive moves with missing that front wing and really the other part being flared up. It's almost like the whole entire front wing is gone, but Sarah Tessum doing a fantastic job right now trying to wheel this 70 machine the best that she can.
Curtis Yancey was off course a little bit there with the right side tires. And yeah, these are open wheel race cars. These are not stock cars where you can try and bump someone going into the corner, because as we can clearly see on the front of the 70 of Sarah Tessum, a lot of damage sustained. And that's really going to hurt you more often than not over here in the speedway section of the course, where the aerodynamics are going to be very important.
We've been talking about the back of the field almost all race long, but the front of the field is still heavy action. You got Nick Johnston going up against Riley Thompson, and you also got Baumersbach. They're in third. They're all within a second of one another, and I got to give credit to that 37th Baumersbach. He's doing a great job trying to stay with our front two of when we saw Johnston and Thompson really dominating the road courses last season.
Yeah, Baumersbach, of course, the 2019 IndyCar Series champion, trying to become a two-time IndyCar Series champion now, as he's currently in that third position. And he's another driver that we talked to last season. And he said that last year, or I'm not last season, but last week, and he said the problem last year for him was they just seemed to have great runs, but ran into late issues. And he wants to try and clean that act up, and had a great run last week, of course, at Motegi with a third place run there, and trying to go for back-to-back podium finishes now.
Riley Thompson got a great run through that last couple of corners, now right on the back bumper of that one machine of Nick Johnson. And you got to give credit to Johnson last season. He was just dominating almost every single road course, but Riley Thompson was always there in pace. Just luck was not on that 56 side.
Laguna Seca, these two were duking it out before Thompson ran into issues.
It's Eric Gonzalez getting absolutely ran over by Hunter. Hunter luckily did not get a lot of wing damage from that incident, but that 7 machine losing position to Halaba, but dropping back, and Eric Gonzalez dropping from around 11th all the way back to 17th.
And Sarah Tensum is currently on the getting damage repaired. And just going to go back to what I was going to mention about the top two there with Nicholas Johnston and Riley Thompson. Johnston and Thompson, the two of them were battling at Laguna Seca last year before Thompson ended up running into an issue. I think it was a lap car they were catching that he got caught up with going into the corkscrew. That took him out of the running for that one. And then we remember back at Road Atlanta as well, when Riley Thompson ended up coming to pit road, getting fresh tires, and was able to run down 14 seconds between himself and Nicholas Johnson and make it 3 car lengths at the line.
Just was talking about Kai Baumersbach doing great in third. He just spun it around a couple of corners ago. He was once in third, now back in 8th place, trying to get up there.
Another driver that's just up ahead of him is Barrett Rolfe in the 33. Rolfe had a decent outing going last week at Laguna Seca. I'm sorry, not Laguna Seca. Make that Twin Ring Motegi. And right now, a very good run in that 7th position, as we just had an exchange for 4th place. David Kolb getting around Jason Brophy, and almost a little contact between those two as they head onto the speedway section.
Kolb was being extremely aggressive into that last corner. He came in actually in the grass slightly on the backstretch and tried to make that pass work. Now here on the speedway section of the course, Brophy's actually kind of in the advantage point as he's coming on the outside.
And now Jason Brophy, obviously, oh gracious, that looked closer maybe than it was from my camera angle. I almost thought they were going to get into each other. But Brophy, of course, riding the momentum of his win last week at Motegi, but he has to be careful here as well. He knows Johnston is up there in that race lead. Johnston last week finished 12th. So Brophy's got a little bit of room to work with. He's got, I believe, 14 points between himself and Johnston coming into this race. So I don't think he has to force the issue right at this current point in time, especially with the fact there's 2 races here tonight. There's 2 points that are being given out here.
Yeah, a lot of things on the line here with it being 2 races. You got to stay consistent. And Johnston's keeping his eyes open, because if he can win this race and then win the B race, he's got a great chance of putting himself back up there for challenging for the lead in points. I mean, last week he really thought he was going to win it, as Cohen Evans has issues.
Looks like he's going to get it righted, but a lot of momentum lost there for the 17. He was up inside of the top 10 before that problem, and it's like Kite Baumersbach's issues continue. He was in 8th, you mentioned. He's now dropped back to 10th. The guy that's on the move, though, that's Matt Halaba. He came to pit road under the last caution. He's been able to now work his way up into the top 10. Currently, 0-2 is in 9th.
Yeah, and he qualified back in 19th, so he was already all the way in the back. Might as well come in the pits once a early caution comes in, and that O2 up to ninth place, up 10 positions. Our biggest mover right now, tied with Mike Wrigley back in that 12 machine, right now 12th.
Andy Roberts has done a good job of recovering too. We saw him have that spin out,
Kai
dropped all the way back.
Bommersbach having more issues, completely
Whoa!
dinging the wall.
Right in front of Danny Roberts, who we were just having our cameras focused on. He nearly got collected.
And Bommersbach, that 37 machine, what was looking like could have been a decent day, is going up in smoke as he was once at third, now back to 16th place.
See if we can go. Oh, Kite's actually up against the wall again here. We're going to go back, see if we can find out what happened to him.
It could be
Boy, that
something
is tough.
broken. Something is completely wrong with that 37 machine.
And it looks like he has had to teleport it to pit road as well.
That could have been a suspension issue because he hit the rumble strip and it kind of just launched his car up in the air. Something suspensional-wise could have been broken that really cost that machine not able to make any turns or make or carry any speed.
He got clobbered. I think that might have been the 6 of Cass Silman that hit him in the front. But even before that, when he went into that corner, you saw how the car kind of wiggled. So, to your point, might have been a suspension problem. Almost wonder if maybe might have blown a gear, possibly. I mean, these drivers have 6 gears to work with in these Indy cars, and sometimes if you shift to the wrong gear at the wrong time, you might end up blowing one of those lower gears.
Will Roberts now putting his machine into the pits, trying to get some damage repaired. But now he's back on course as our leaders put him down, 1 lap down.
You know, the good news here for some of these drivers as well is the fact that there are 2 races here tonight. So if you don't do well in the first one, you do have a chance to maybe kind of learn what happened in the first race, apply it to the second race, and maybe get a better finish. But obviously none of these drivers want to have one good race, one bad race. They want to be consistently up inside of the top 10 in both those races, get the maximum points they possibly can.
Well, our top 5 have been showing some great action. You got your front 2 of Nicholas Johnson and Riley Thompson having a great duel, all within a half a second of one another, and they've been within a half a second or less on this battle. And then also for third, you got a 3-car battle going on with there, with Kolb leading that crew of machines with Welker and Brophy behind him.
Nicholas Johnson, Riley Thompson, those are 2 drivers that even as early as now are kind of a bit on redemption, if you will. Both of them looked like they could have been in the running for the victory last week at Motegi with that late caution coming out. They were 2 of the drivers that came to pit road, got the fresh tires, but Thompson got involved in a wreck off of turn 4, coming to the checkered flag. Nicholas Johnson got caught up in a wreck. I think it was in turn 2 on the final lap. So the both of them ended up finishing that race back in the 12th and 13th positions, respectively.
I was watching this battle for third, and Brophy and Welker both went off course just for a second, losing time to that 11 machine in front of them. But it was once all 3 machines within a second of one another. Now there's second between 4th and 3rd.
Mitch Welker, if I recall last year, his best finish of the season at a road course was 2nd. That was at the Laguna Seca road course. Spent a good portion of the second half of the season, as we've mentioned before, we mentioned this last week, on the pit box, calling the shots for the eventual champion, Nicholas Johnson.
Other battles that are going on course, battle for 7th, heating up as well, as you got Matt Hollaba get on Mitchell Riggs, and Riggs, really, it's just been consistent so far. Qualified 8th, running 7th right now, and really hasn't been losing or gaining time, just being consistent at the moment.
Yeah, and I'm looking here at the lap times for Matt Hollaba. The problem for him, even though he has the fresh tires that he got on the only caution we had today, and he's been able to work his way up to 8th, his lap times now are starting to kind of even out to the drivers around him based on him being in traffic, and he's actually running now about anywhere from 4/10 to half a second slower than our top 2, who are running 1 minute, 4 second, 9/10 lap times.
I'm looking back at drivers that are pretty quick, further back in the field, and Cohen Evans, not this last lap, but 2 laps ago, was with one of the fastest cars on track. The 17 machine trying to redeem himself after spinning out. Once he was up to 6th at one moment, spun all the way down to 14th. He's up to 11th. Cohen Evans, that 17 machine, trying his best to at least get a top 10 finish.
I'll tell you who I think's got the fastest car on the track right now, though, barring our race leaders. That's Danny Roberts, because he's now back up to 9th place. And when we looked at him prior to his spin, he was running 1 position behind Matt Hollabaugh. The spin dropped him back about 5 spots. He's back up 1 spot behind Hollabaugh again. So he has picked up about 9 positions in the last 10 laps.
Only problem for Danny Roberts is that 02 machine is 4 seconds ahead of him. So not looking like with the last couple of laps here coming to a close.
Oh, no, Mitch Walker almost off the nose of Brophy. Brophy kind of helped to right him again. So they continue on. The 88 takes the 4th position, but we nearly had a spin from our 4th place machine.
You know, these guys have been so close to one another. I'm not surprised to see that type of action, but with 5 laps to go here in this A race, you gotta be careful. We're coming to the end of this thing. Let's not ruin each other's races here.
And Brophy, that contact you can see has taken the left front wing off of his race car, so he's going to have to struggle out these final 4.5 some odd laps with maybe not as much downforce on these straightaway sections as he would like.
And Will Roberts, who's 1 lap down, his woes continue as he spun it around and finally got that car straight and going.
Kite Bommersbach is currently 5 laps down as he still sits on pit road getting repairs made. Sarah Tessem is still on pit road. Rodrigo Munoz is still on pit road. We mentioned Chandler Rubeck is out of the race. Now also Mike Hurley is out of this one. And this battle for the race lead, as we keep having these laps tick away, the gap's closing up just the least little bit.
It's closing up just slightly here and there, and then it gaps out in other spots. It just seems like Riley Thompson a lot quicker in the late and beginning stages, but it's this middle course part that we see Nicholas Johnson usually pull away. Is that time around, you're seeing Riley Thompson gaining on the 1 machine.
Will Roberts into his pit stall as we're looking at Cohen Evans. He just worked his way around Mike Rigney up into the top 10 after an early spin, and so he's now back into the top 10 position where he was prior. I think he was running around the 8th position when he had his spin, so I don't think he'll quite work his way up to there, but nice recoveries for a couple of drivers that had early struggles in Danny Roberts and Cohen Evans trying to salvage what they can.
Car, I'm surprised on how well he's trying to race around this track. That's going to be Hunter in the 7 machine. Back in 14th, half his wing is there, and he's trying his best to chug this thing along, but it's just not doing as well as you'd like it to be.
Don Hunter was 19th last week at Motegi, right now running better at the Homestead Miami Road course in the 14th position, as you mentioned. And Eric Gonzalez, remember we saw him get punted off course. He's been able to work his way back at least up to the 13th position. Don Hunter might actually have been the car. I said that there was a car that hit, I believe it was Kite Bommersbach, that sent Bommersbach to pit road. It might have been the 7 of Don Hunter. That might be why that entire left front wing is gone.
And, you know, just because it's road courses and the later it goes on, the more spread out cars become. And we're starting to see that as there's only a handful of battles going on at the moment. But our best battle so far is the one for the lead as we are coming to 2 laps to go here in the A race.
We know Riley Thompson is not going to be afraid to dive it deep into a corner if he has to make up time. He's right there about maybe 2 car lengths back. Oh, we've got a car that just passed by that it spun out.
That's
Brent Jones. Brent Jones, yeah. So fortunately, he was off the track.
Off the track, waiting for traffic to go on by, and then he'll back that car up. But right now, still staying there. And there's a lot of traffic he's trying to get by. Right now, Hollabaugh and Riggs try to battle, but it's going to be Hollabaugh going off course.
And that's going to cost him the 7th position, at least for the moment. And poor Brent Jones, you mentioned trying to back up. Well, in order to back up, he's got to come onto the course. And you said they're all spread out, so you got to be paying very close attention to the oncoming traffic. Make sure you don't back up into somebody that's going to be coming around that corner. It's kind of a bit of a blind corner there as well.
Yeah, you're really asking for help from spotters and everyone on course to help you out. Also, there's a little bit of telemetry that will give you markers on when you can get out there and moving. And Brent Jones finally found some time to get that 49 moving and out of the way. So trying to get things done as quick as possible. But our leaders right now have hit the white flag. Nicholas Johnson, Riley Thompson is right there within 2/10.
He drove it into turn 1 deep, did Riley Thompson, almost to the back of the 1 shell machine of Nick Johnston for the race lead And I think he's going to try that a time or two as well. We're going to have to see if maybe he's going to rely on the speedway section, try and get a draft to make a move, or is the road course section going to be his best friend to try and get this race win?
Usually we see him off that last corner get a great run. Right now, Riley Thompson, another fantastic run. He's got to dig it deep in these last couple of corners, so he's close enough to utilize the draft coming onto the front stretch, and here they come onto the speedway part of the track. It's all about the draft, and Riley Thompson, he's trying to get a little bit of a gap, and Nicholas Johnson's going to be trying to curve and twist and try to block that draft.
Trying to break it up so Thompson can't get a run on him. It's 2 tenths. Oh, here comes Thompson. He's going to be there. He's going to look. They're going to be side by side to the line. I think Johnson got him. Wow.
There's other really close battles to watch out for. As I'm watching out for 7th. Riggs and Holliba coming off the final corner, and I don't think Holliba's close enough, but a great redemption for him. He was trying to come back from spinning out earlier.
Mitch Welker and Jason Brophy, the two of them were close at the line. Welker able to hang on for the 4th position. Brophy will finish in 5th, and just about all the way back, it's about a second difference through 10th on back to around the 16th position, so no more really battles coming to the line, but the champ is back. Nicholas Johnston, who, let's not forget, was on that tear of 4 road course wins in a row last season. First road course stop of the year. He takes the checkered flag, and we got one more 30-lapper to go here tonight as well.
I would like to say I'm surprised, but I'm really not. I mean, just the way that Johnston was dominating road courses last season with consistency, it helped so much. This was just really a sprint for these drivers. They didn't have to worry about pit stalls and pit strategy. That's what the next race is, what we're going to be seeing a lot of that. But Riley Thompson, he had the speed at the end, just was not good enough.
And how about David Kolb here in his first start? You saw him giving a congratulatory little side swipe there to the one machine, but he's going to bring it home in the podium in his first start, 3rd place run. Very impressive. Maybe a dark horse guy to watch here in our second race.
Yeah, I mean, really, you saw the testament of the fact of how quick our front 2 were. They were just pulling away from everyone else, and you got to wonder if Kai Bummersbach did not have his issues that he did, would he have been able to stick with these guys? Because that 37 was quick as well. He was still in the back bumper for 3rd place for the longest time there at the first stint.
Mitch Welker is going to finish in 4th. Jason Brophy, last week's winner, brings it home 5th. Barrett Rolfe, who was the runner-up finisher last week, back-to-back top 10 finishes, he'll bring it home 6th. Mitchell Riggs follows 7th, and then Matt Holliba, Danny Roberts, who were 2 drivers that came to pit road under our only yellow, which was back on lap 3. They'll finish 8th and 9th, followed by Cohen Evans for Roberts and Evans. Definitely some comeback finishes after some early spins, and for Matt Holliba, a lot of cars he had to pass to get up to a top 10 run.
Yeah, and gotta give credit for everyone that stuck it out for this race. I know it was a tough one. We brought out an early caution, which we don't usually see here at road courses, but that first couple of laps, it was tough for these drivers, and then they finally settled in for those last 15 to 16 laps, and a lot of great racing there at the end, a lot of good battles to watch out for, and I'm excited to see what this 30-lapper is going to be like, because pit road is going to be an issue for some drivers, and it's going to be interesting to see who is going to be the big winner coming down pit road.
Absolutely. These drivers, as mentioned, are going to be having a second 30-lap race, so we're going to have to swap over sessions here. We're going to get interviews with our top 3 finishers from this race in just a moment. We're going to go to a quick intermission. We'll get these post-race interviews, get things set up for the second race, so don't go anywhere. Coverage of the Racetrack Designs IndyCar Series here for Fuel continues on in just a moment. All right, we're muted just for a minute.
Okay. I just messaged in the booth because they were asking if we were doing interview.
And welcome back here to Flatout Racing Network's coverage of the Fuel Racetrack Designs IndyCar Series. We've just concluded our first road course race of the night, the 20-lapper at Homestead, Miami road course, and we're going to get some interviews here with some of our top finishers who are then going to be climbing into their cars, getting ready for the 30-lapper, and let's kick things off with our second-place finisher, Riley Thompson. Riley, it's Sam and Seth up in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Yes, sir.
Well, you were all over the back bumper of that number one on that final lap. We saw you try and make that slingshot move there out of turn 4. So what, if anything, did you learn that you maybe got to do just a little bit better here to be able to take the checkered flag in this second race?
Take the white flag first as well.
We also saw that you were able to drive it in deeper into the corners on that final lap as well. Was that really, you think, where your strength was as opposed to the one car?
Yeah, I think the whole time he was going wide and about each hairpin. And then turn 1, he kept going out wide. So hopefully this race I can use it to my advantage a little bit more.
Yeah, Riley. I mean, we have both races. We got the shorter sprint that we just got done with, and you did great in that. But it just seemed like the cars were a little unstable at times. Did it feel rough in your hands while racing around the racetrack?
I mean, I wasn't pushing too hard because I knew I had that handicap with Nick's draft. But the whole time the car felt pretty stable to me.
Well, Riley, obviously, we know that you're wanting to get out there, turn some more laps, and obviously you want to qualify a little bit further up there, get that pole position, and be able to control this race. But we're going to let's do some shout-outs here, and then hopefully be able to talk to you after race 2.
Yeah, got to thank you guys for broadcasting this, coming back for another season. It's great to see. Sims at Esports for taking me on still. Craig Soapshop and Linford Chassis.
Well, that's Riley Thompson. We're going to wait to see where he'll qualify for the second race, but he finishes P2 in the first Homestead road course race this evening. Congrats on a good run. Good luck in the next one.
Thanks. I'll see you guys again.
And his stay in victory lane, probably a short one, as I believe he is getting ready to climb into his number one machine yet again. But let's get a quick word with our first race of the night winner, Nick Johnson. Nick, it's Sam and Seth up in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us? Yeah, we'll try it again here. Nicholas, it's Sam and Seth in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us, buddy?
Copy. Hello. There we go.
Yes, we gotcha. All right, so I know you've got about 3 more minutes here of practice. So you're going to want to be getting out there and turning some more laps, so we won't keep you. But walk us through that final lap there, having to play defense against the 56.
Well, I know Riley as a driver, he's really apt to using the draft on the last few laps and trying to get that drag race to the finish. And I was just trying to get a good exit out of the hairpin. I didn't get the best exit, but luckily I had some push to pass, and I was able to just barely hold on for it. It was a good race overall. Made a few small mistakes, but it'll be a different go around this time with pit stop incorporated and all that stuff.
Yeah, obviously we know that you're really good at the road courses based off of last season when you had those 4 in a row at the road course stops, but had a little bit of hard luck last week at Motegi, ended up finishing outside of the top 10. Did that make it more important to take a quick victory checkered flag here tonight in the first race at Homestead?
It does and it doesn't. Really, it's a long season. We have a lot of races ahead of us, and a lot of things can happen in between now and then. Unfortunately, I got put in a situation where I was leading the race and ended up back in 14th, 15th, whatever, being at the end. So it is what it is. But we go into this week. Already got 1 win under our belt, and hopefully we can double up tonight and look forward to the rest of the season.
Well, Nick, we'll let you go now. Any shout-outs, though, before we let you go?
Just thanks for everyone watching. Thanks for you guys doing this. And feel for putting on the league. All the boys over at Force Esports. And that's about it. We'll see you.
All right, that's Nicholas Johnston. He's got the checkered flag for the first race here tonight. We'll see if he can double down. We'll let you go and maybe talk to you a little bit later on tonight.
Hopefully.
And currently practice is underway here for the second race. And so, Sam, I mean, he touched on it, did Johnston, the fact that with this being a longer one, there is the possibility now that these drivers are going to have to start thinking about pit road and pit stops.
Yeah, that was a factor while they were talking about interviews. I completely forgot about the push-to-pass system and the fact that the drivers, they have it on the road courses. It's a feature on these Indy cars that allows the drivers to have an extra bit of horsepower on the straightaways or wherever you feel like you need extra power. And these drivers, they get to have 10 during the race. And so with that short stint, it was more of save it up and use it all at the end. With it being 30 laps, you've got a lot of time to use all the push to passes you want.
Now, we saw, obviously, early on in that 20-lapper, that full course yellow. I don't think we had a full course yellow last season at all at any of the road courses. So do we see something similar like that again when everyone's going to be in real close proximity on the initial green flag?
I would like to say no, but it's going to be really hard not to say that it won't happen again, just because of how close everyone's going to be off the start here. Everyone's still going to be antsy. They want to get up front as fast as they can, just because everyone's the closest they're going to be all race long. So it's all about getting the best qualifying position you can, and then just trying to stay smooth for the first about 3 to 4 laps until everyone else starts to settle down.
You bring up getting the best qualifying result as possible. Nicholas Johnston was the pole sitter for the first race, dominated, led every lap, including the final one. These drivers have been able to be out there now for 20 circuits. The track conditions might have varied a little bit, but do we now see, because of the experience of turning those 20 laps, maybe somebody be able to challenge Nicholas Johnston for that pole position, like maybe a Riley Thompson, who was saying he wanted to be ahead of that one car as much as possible? Do we see someone knock the one off the pole position now that these drivers have maybe gotten a little bit used to the configuration of this track?
If anyone could do it, I could see it being Thompson or Bommersbach. Both those drivers very quick on qualifying times. And right now, Riley Thompson's actually on track, starting up his qualifying fly lap before he starts putting down his time. So he's going to be the first one out there. We'll see if anyone could try to beat his time. But I got to say, Nicholas Johnston, he looked quick and looked dominant last race. Even though Riley Thompson was right there, he never really had a chance to completely make that pass to the last lap.
And of course, we touch on this all the time when we're at the road courses, is the fact when you're the race leader, you get to choose the line you want going into the corner. The guy that's trying to pass you has to change up his strategy, change up his approach, and more often than not, puts that driver in second place at a disadvantage. The points have come in after the second race. Jason Brophy is still the points leader, but it's now only a 5-point gap back to, guess who? Nicholas Johnston moves up 10 spots with that victory. He's now 5 points back, tied for second place with Barrett Rolfe, who's had back-to-back top 10 runs. Mitch Walker is currently 4th in points, 9 points back. Matt Hollaba and Danny Roberts, they're tied for 5th, 10 points back apiece. 11 points back is our runner-up finisher from the first race, Riley Thompson. And then Cohen Evans, Cass Silman, and Mike Rigney right now, your top 10 in the standings. The top 10 in points, which is comprised of 12 drivers, separated by only 18 points.
And right now, drivers are going to be starting to put their first lap times down. And it's going to be an interesting 30 laps for these drivers. They've only got 10 push-to-passes to work with during this race. They also have to pit at least one time. And when do you want to pit? Do you want to pit early at the halfway marker, or do you want to push it until at least we know they can make it at least 20 laps? Probably looking at the times, they could probably go about 21 to 22 laps with fuel and tires, as Riley Thompson, after putting his one lap down, spins it around. So that will be his one lap of a 104.1, which is going to be a great lap to hold on to. But Cohen Evans says, I'll take the pole with a 104.1.
Evans was top of the board in practice, too, just before we went to the qualifying session. So not surprised to see him jump to the top of the board here in qualifying. We'll have to see what Nicholas Johnston has to say about that, as he's just hit the line and he's going to be slower. Evans right now looks like he could be the pole sitter.
And Culp's going to be second right now after that, pushing everyone down one position. Nicholas Johnston, though, I believe he still has one more lap to put down, so he's going to be pushing as hard as he can. But right now, he is 2/10 off of our leader on the pole, of Cohen Evans.
You know, another thing that I'm looking at coming into this race, you talked about when do you make that pit stop. Well, we got an idea of what the fresher tires are capable of doing when both Matt Hollaba and Danny Roberts came to pit road under the first the full course yellow we had in the first race. And we saw how quickly they were able to cut their way up through the field. Even after the fact that Danny Roberts had a spin out, they managed to finish up in the 8th and 9th position. So we know that fresh tires are definitely going to gain you spots.
All right, now coming out the final corner, going to be crossing the line is Nicholas Johnston, but I got to give credit. Eric Gonzalez put himself 4th, and after this lap, Nicholas Johnston's going to be up to only 4th place, pushing Eric Gonzalez down, Mitch Welker down. Cass Silman is 7th at the moment. A car I'm surprised, Jason Brophy, 11th on the board at the moment as he's coming around. Going to put his last lap down for qualifying, and he's going to be moved up to 4th position, pushing Nicholas Johnston down to 5th.
Of course, for Brophy, yes, he finished top 5 here in the first race, but Nicholas Johnston not only won the race, but he also got a bonus point for a lap led. He got a bonus point for the most laps led, so all those bonus points translated into that 5-point gap now between Brophy and Johnston to start out this, I guess we'll call it the 3rd race of the season, even though this is not technically the 3rd race of the season. It's, I guess, race 2.5, we'll call it.
As no other drivers are going to try to put a lap down. This is going to be your pole sitter for race 2 here at Miami. That's going to be Cohen Evans, 17 machine. And then you've got it on the outside of him. It's going to be David Kolb in that 11 car. Surprising to see the drivers that once were leading in our poll of Riley Thompson and Nicholas Johnston. Both of them will not be in the front row.
And it's going to be interesting to watch here and see what Cohen Evans and David Kolb are able to do being out in front, just based on the fact of what they were able to do in the first race. David Kolb finished in the 3rd position, kind of spent most of that race by himself in that 3rd spot, at least in the final 10 laps of that first race. Cohen Evans, on the other hand, had an early issue, but was able to fight his way back up into the top 10. So we know that both of them have fast race cars, but are they fast enough to hold off the drivers that ran 1st and 2nd in our first race, that being Johnston and Thompson?
I mean, consistency was what won Johnston the championship last season, and that's what you're going to have to do for this race right here. You got to stay consistent for 30 laps, hit your marks, because if you don't, we know a couple of machines that really were consistent for at least 20 laps. That's Riley Thompson and Nicholas Johnston. Both those drivers pulled away from the rest of the pack. We'll see if we're able to continue forward.
We talked about the fact that Nicholas Johnston moved up 10 spots in the standings with his victory. The driver that dropped the lowest after that first race was Kite Bommersbach, dropping all the way down from 3rd to 11th. So to your point, the issues that he had in the first race definitely needs this race to try and counter it.
And it's going to be a very interesting race overall. But I got it, like we saw at the start of last race, chaos ensued from the middle of the pack onwards, and it was madness with how many cars were spinning out, had to bring out a yellow. We'll find out here if drivers are able to stay clean and we can go green all race long.
I have to go back to something that Sarah Tessum said after that race. She said, I was pretty confident in my own braking point if there were no other cars there. And I think that's what a lot of drivers were experiencing, especially into a couple of those heavy braking zones, because we saw a lot of drivers slowing down for the cars ahead of them, and it's like the rear tires never took and the car would snap around. We saw Will Roberts have problems with that. Sarah Tessum had an issue with that. I believe Yancey had some problems with that. So a lot of drivers really hoping that the tires are actually going to take here when they hit that brake pedal.
Yeah, it's the main thing is you got to give a lot of respect to the drivers around you so you don't absolutely clobber anyone else up as the cars are starting to drive forward. And we can go through the grid a little. I mean, I got to give credit to the fact that a lot of these drivers up front, I mean, it's going to be a dogfight for most of them, but Will Roberts, who did not have the best race at our B race here tonight, he's going to be starting last. I'm wondering if he's going to be able to continue, if he's going to be able to make any hard charge up front. Also, Matt Halba starting back in 15th. That's going to be a shocker to see, and how many cars can he get by to get back up front?
Yeah, we saw Matt Hollabaugh fight his way up to a top 10 run in the last race, but I know he's probably got a strong car. The question is, though, how much of it was the strength of the car? How much was with the fresh tires that he had picked up when we had the caution on lap 3? We'll have to wait and see if that car is capable here on equal tires of fighting his way up to the front as well.
Other drivers that I have my eye on, 37 Bommersbach. He's going to be starting 11th. We'll see if he can get himself into the top 10, but it's going to be a fun race overall to watch. Danny Roberts, we'll see if he can also stay consistent and not get caught up into any incidences. And also Eric Gonzalez, he's got a very quick car. Qualified well last race, but got caught up in that incident that kind of shoved him off the course and made him lose about 10 positions. So he's going to be looking for some luck here, and that's what all these drivers are looking for, is a little bit of luck and a lot of consistency.
Oh, a tough break here for Barrett Rolfe. I'm just getting notified. He was unaware that the new session had been put up, did not get the notification, and that's a driver that finished second last week, sixth in the first race tonight, and was tied for second in the points coming into this race.
You know, in this league, you have some drop races, so I'm imagining that this race will be dropped for Rolfe, and he'll just have to think about next week and on that next race and try to be getting the best positions he can moving forward.
On the speedway section here, Cohen Evans and David Kolb. They are going to be the ones to lead us to the green, and we saw just how heavy a braking zone turn 1 was when Riley Thompson was trying to outbrake Nicholas Johnston. This is going to be interesting to see what these drivers do down here in the first corner as the 11 appeared not to get going.
Not at all, and it's going to be Cohen Evans pulling away from everyone else. And now you've got to be really watching Brophy and all of them as Brophy goes off the track, going to be losing a ton of positions doing that.
All the way back to the 6th position as he's now going to maybe lose that to Nicholas Johnston.
Oh no! Nicholas Johnston, contact!
And there's more drivers involved in that. Brophy was up on 2 wheels. Another car back there up on 2 wheels. I think that might possibly have been
Silman.
Yeah, the 6th
Brophy.
car.
Nicholas Johnston was involved
another
in
car, of course, up there. That's Yancey up into the sand trap. You said it. It was going to be crazy these first couple of laps here.
And they just don't calm down until about 4 laps into the race, so you don't know when they're going to be calming down completely, as Johnston's going to be trying to continue to hold off for 12th place. Just not able to at the moment, as he's got Evan Adams on his outside, and finally will get that 12th place position. But up front, Cohen Evans looking strong, but here comes Kolb trying to dig it deep, and Riley Thompson as well in 3rd.
Yeah, Riley Thompson, of course, he said in his post-race interview from the first race he wants to be ahead of that 1 car. Well, with that problem for Nicholas Johnston on the first lap, mission accomplished there. Now he's got to try and work his way around David Kolb and Cohen Evans, trying to see if he can get up there to the front. But for the moment, Evans has about a 1 car length lead back to David Kolb.
And right now I'm looking at cars from about 9th on back. You got a ton of machines just all in a line, but they are right on top of one another. And Nicholas Johnston in the middle of the thick of things, trying to get by. Munoz is up front. It's Halaba as well as Bommerschbach getting into one another.
That drops them all the way back to 17th and 18th. Make that now 18th and 19th. It didn't look like Kite hit anything, but I'm not sure. Oh, yeah, he actually did. The rear wing is pretty well bent up on that.
Evan Adams just went off course. Halaba just teleported to the pits.
So Matt Halaba, you mentioned him having to start after his qualifying effort in the middle of the pack. Apparently that was not good. We had a lead change. Well, we have a battle for the lead, actually.
Side by side, Cohen Evans is trying to hold off, will not hold off. Kolb up front in the 11 machine, really feeling comfortable. His caution's going to be out as a huge cluster of cars back in 11th place.
Sarah Tessum is around. Jason Brophy got collected. Mike Rigney is involved. Evan Adams may have gotten a piece as well. Wow. And it's almost it's almost that same corner where we had the full course yellow from the first races. I think that was Jason Brophy in the 88 that spun out again.
Looking to see, it looked like it was Eric Gonzalez that was the initial car who came in under Brophy and tried to avoid the 88 machine, spun it around, and then came up, hit Tessum, and more machines trying to slow up, and we're not able to.
I want to mention that when we first saw the incident with Nicholas Johnston, he fell all the way back to 12th. Everything that just happened right there, he just was able to work his way back up to the 7th position, as we'll go back and take a look at what happened.
Other machines that look like they might have had some issues. Jason Brophy had more issues as he's all the way back in 20th position.
So Brophy never got involved in the initial wreck, but then he got punted from behind by, I think that was Curtis Yancey in the 51. I think the 88 ducked out of line into the grass to avoid a car that was sitting in the middle of the track, which I think was either the 12 of Mike Rigney or possibly the 6 of Cass Silman.
But man, oh man, you kind of had a feeling that it was just going to get that chaotic, but not as bad as that. I was expecting us to have a caution, but not to take out at least 6 to 7 machines there. As looking back at Brophy, it looked like he was just avoiding a car, and the car that got in back of him was Yancey.
Brophy went to avoid the 6 of Cass Silman, who ran into the back of, I think that was the 12 of Mike Rigney. Now, it looked like Rigney really slowed up. I don't know if he was woeing up for a car that maybe had spun in front of him or not, or if it was just two different drivers with two different braking zones. The car ahead of Rigney was the 27 of Will Roberts. Oh, yeah, they were slowing up for another car that had spun. That was the 42 of Eric Gonzalez.
Yeah, no, Eric was the initial car that was spun out and stuck there. So
there was a lot of drivers just basically trying to check up for the incident off that blind corner of turn 2, getting into each other, and I'm not so certain that Gonzalez didn't get hit right there. It was hard to tell who that car was. See, that was, I believe, the 70 of Sarah Tessum.
Yeah,
that
no,
might have gotten Eric Gonzalez.
Tessum was trying to go around, and when she was trying to, got contact by Eric Gonzalez that was trying to spin his car back straight. As we're talking about the replays, cars are coming into the pits. Riley Thompson and Nicholas Johnson both decided to pit. They were the only cars in the top 10 that pit. Everyone from 11th on back also coming and ducking in to get repairs done. Looks like a quick fill-up for the 56 machine. And tires could be going... Yeah, tires went onto the 1. So different strategies being utilized here.
Yeah, it's a question of how far they can go, because we know they can go 20 laps, because they ran 20 laps on the last race, and a number of drivers did not come to pit road under that full course yellow. So it's a matter of, can they go that extra 5 laps here, or where did the fuel window open up? How short were they where they would have had to make that pit stop?
I believe the window is about 25 laps, so with them coming in, it could put him just on the brink of making it. It was 23 or 25 laps that they could go on fuel. So with them coming in and really getting fuel and tires here, this could be a winning move for these drivers right now.
Could very well, because we saw Matt Hollabaugh able to work his way up, I think it was 10 positions from his pit stop to the end of the race, with Riley Thompson running in 10th, Nicholas Johnson there in 11th. That would put the two of them in 1st and 2nd by the time we get to the checkered flag, if we do not see another full course yellow. And bear in mind, too, that the 9 cars up ahead of them may still have to come to pit road.
It looks like the pace car lights are off, so we'll be going this time by. And Riley Thompson, excited to see the one machine behind him, because he does not want to be stuck behind Nicholas Johnson for another race. But up front, David Kolb and Cohen Evans, they did a fantastic job trying to pull away from the rest of the field. Mitch Welker is going to have to try to do a little bit better here, sticking with our front 2. And Danny Roberts in 4th. Congratulations to him. I mean, right now, doing a great job in that 41 machine. Just got to continue to stay consistent and avoid any other cars around him.
The other drivers that stayed out, restarting inside the top 9. Mitchell Riggs will be 5th. Rodrigo Munoz in 6th. Will Roberts 7th. Sarah Tessum, despite that little bit of damage to the left side of her machine, still in 8th. And Evan Adams is in the 9th position. As mentioned, the driver up there with the freshest tires. They came to pit road. Riley Thompson, the 56, going to restart in the 10th position. As we get ready to go back green, we had 21 cars take the green to start this race. 20 of them on the lead lap continue on.
Cohen Evans did not get going, and so it's going to put him already side by side with Mitch Welker coming in here in turn number 1, but he's going to hold off that 76 machine, but it's Kolb already up to over a half a second gap on the rest of the field.
Little surprised that everyone did not come to pit road under that caution, if indeed they would be able to make it 25 laps, because that would put them right on the window. I mean, I don't see how David Kolb, Cohen Evans, Mitch Welker, how these guys can save those 5 laps here.
I mean, they're going to have to pit at least one more time. Maybe they're expecting, just because how clustered everyone is going to be this time by, if there's going to be another accident to come off. But in the back, 59 of Evan Adams almost went off track. having some issues. And right now, biggest mover so far is going to be Jason Brophy, who's already gone up 5 positions since we went green again.
Brophy is continuing to fight his way up there towards the front, finished 5th in the first race, behind Mitch Welker, who's up in the 3rd position. So Welker right now looking for back-to-back top 5 runs. Best battle right now is going on just inside the top 10. That's where Sarah Tessum is in the 8th position. Riley Thompson on those fresher tires, along with Nicholas Johnston trying to reel her in.
Yeah, you know they're going to catch up to the 70 machine at some point, as it looks like they are all getting jam-packed right here, as it looked like Mitchell Riggs had a slight issue that just jam-packed everyone up.
Rodrigo Munoz was almost into the back of Riggs. Roberts was almost into the back of Munoz. You're right, they got really stacked up as here comes Thompson looking to the inside of Sarah Tessum. Can't quite get there this time around. That's for the 8th position, and he's got Nicholas Johnston behind him. So if you're Thompson, you got to be careful getting through this traffic, because if you make a mistake, then you've got Johnston there to capitalize and pick a spot away from you. Next thing you know, you're behind the 1 car again.
You got to make sure that you make a pass here and make it clean and quick, that you don't give Nicholas Johnston behind you an opportunity at all to get on the outside of you or pass both machines that are trying to make moves. And up front, looks like Roberto Munoz is going to be getting past, or is trying to pass Riggs on the outside, not able to, as Will Roberts looks like he is coming into the pits, but came in flying very quick through the inside, coming into the pits.
Well, you can use the access road to come to pit lane, and there is no pit road speed on that access road, as boy, they are stacked up from 2nd place back to 4th. But Will Roberts making sure he doesn't lose any time trying to come to pit lane, backing the car down to pit road speed as soon as he hit the commitment line.
Riley Thompson finally able to get by Tessum, and Roberts getting under fire and trying to get by Cohen Evans. Not able to, as Mitch Welker is trying to make pass as well. As now looks like Tessum went off the track, back on course. She dropped from about 7th all the way back to 11th.
And then almost a little contact with Curtis Yancey, making a pass there for 10th position. So Tessum falls outside of the top 10. Riley Thompson now up to the 7th spot. Now has Rodrigo Munoz next on his hit list, but up towards the front. That battle for 2nd place continues on between Evans, Roberts, and you got Mitch Welker right there as well.
Roberts is going to have a ton of momentum coming off the last corner here on the front stretch. He's going to have to throw it into the inside, which he does so, side by side for 2nd place.
When Evans going to try and ride it wide into the corner to see if he can cross over out of this turn. Ooh, Roberts may have gotten his right sides off the course just a little bit.
And with that great move by Cohen Evans, keeping him side by side, Mitch Welker is able to get brought back into the action here, as he'll be trying to make a move here on Danny Robertson. Does so with great momentum off that corner.
I don't think Roberts was focused on Welker. He was trying to get ready to cross Evans back over.
No, there goes Cohen Evans.
No. Oh,
he almost flips over.
And he's in the middle of the track, and he collects Hollabaugh. No, it's not Hollabaugh. I'm sorry. That's Rodrigo Munoz. Another car. Yancey
Gosh, it out.
Sand trap, and there you see it. 2nd full course yellow of this race.
Yancey also involved, losing half a wing. I believe Eric Gonzalez was not, he almost had some contact there, was able to avoid it. Munoz, heavy damage on that 09 machine. Looking around at other cars that might have gotten some contact. I know Bommersbach, I don't think he got a little bit of contact there, just on the side of his machine, able to continue going forward. Tessum's is missing half a wing. She'll have to come into the pits. I believe that's all the cars that's ahead and that were involved in that accident.
And Cohen Evans was running in the 2nd position at the time, started this race from the pole, and that car is pretty well used up on the front and rear end of that car as he nearly went up and over.
And the one car that did not want to see that was David Culp, because he was pulling away, doing a great job. The battle for 2nd was heating up, and it was something that is now going to bring in Riley Thompson, Nicholas Johnston into the mix. And now you got to wonder who's going to come into the pits here, as you know all the drivers in pit last time, they can come in, they can make it to the end. But will the cars that also pitted on that last pit stop come in as well?
These cars are so sensitive that even the minutest amount of contact can actually affect the race car in terms of speed. And a couple of drivers that did get slight pieces of that wreck, Cass Silman in the 6 and Mike Rigney in the 12. So we'll see how that affects those 2 drivers for the continuation of this race. Thompson
Right.
worked his way up to 4th. Johnston worked his way up to 5th, and we mentioned Castleman got a little piece of that wreck, but he worked his way up to 6th. Those drivers all were on pit road when we had the first full course yellow. And right now the top 3 looks like they are going to come to pit road.
And Johnson's going to stay out with Silman. Other cars?
All depends on how many stays out. Nicholas Johnson needs a lot of cars to stay out with him, I think.
Brophy staying out as well. Will Roberts will stay out. So, looking like we're going to have 4 machines staying out there on older tires compared to everyone else.
Are we surprised Brophy's staying out on older tires, though? Because let's remember back to last week, we didn't give him a ghost of a shot staying out on older tires, taking the race lead at Motegi on the green-white checkered. We thought that they were going to eat him up with the fresh tires, and he proved us wrong.
Well, Brophy, with the way that he is running in the back and just is not able to get through all this traffic, he really needed to try to go for track position over fresher tires at this moment, as these drivers will be on 10-lap older tires compared to everyone else out there. Will Roberts will be on 8-lap older tires. I take that back. Excuse me. They will be on 6-lap older tires. Will Robert on 3-lap older tires than everyone else that's pitting now.
What a call there for Will Roberts, because remember, we saw him come to pit road under green flag conditions, make his pit stop, and with it being a road course, he was able to get back out, remain on the lead lap, and this caution allows him to pick up a lot of track position.
I mean, it's Will Roberts. He was having some issues staying on course, and that's what dropped him back so much. He's going to have to continue to try to keep that machine on course if he wants to have the best chance to finish up here in the top 10. A factor we haven't talked about, that's push to pass. Right now, our top 3 still have all 10 push to passes. Will Roberts has used 8. And the cars that have used the most is going to be Sarah Tessum and Roberto Munoz, who both have used 3 push passes, leaving them with 7.
David Kolb, who is the first car on pit road of those drivers here under caution, is going to restart in the 5th position, followed by Riley Thompson, Mitch Welker, Mitchell Riggs, and Danny Roberts. So we'll have to see how aggressive this 11 car is going to be. Talking about push to passes, he has 8 still left at his disposal, as does Riley Thompson behind him and Will Roberts ahead of him.
Yeah, I got to give credit to Johnson, because I think he was just using Riley Thompson in all of his push passes to try to get by drivers. He was just following suit, not having to utilize that extra horsepower, because he was able to just pass the cars that were slower in momentum because they weren't able to get through the corners as well as they were before.
Of course, with the fact that we are running the version B configuration here of the Homestead Miami Speedway road course, those push to pass is very, very important, because if we were running the A configuration, the only parts of the speedway that we'd be running would be just the front straightaway and the back straightaway. But since we're running the B version, the NASCAR turns 3 and 4 are also part of the speedway section.
Pace car pulls off. Now the hands into Nick Johnston in that one machine, and he gets going. Everyone else behind him gets a pretty decent start, but right now the one machine with at least a 2-car gap.
Jason Brophy going to look on Cass Silman for second place. Oh, they're stacked up.
Riley Thompson off! Riley Thompson spins off course. We stay green because he's not blocking the track. But drivers that are still running side by side, Kolb and Roberts still side by side trying to figure out who's going to get 4th place. It's looking like it's going to be Kolb.
Side by side, I think, between Thompson and Welker. And when Thompson got on the brakes, we've seen it not only in this race but in the first race. You get on them too hard and the car snaps either to the left or the right.
That time it snapped to the right and it really avoided the rest of the field, saving everyone out there. As drivers continue to race on, Riley Thompson dropped all the way back to 16th place. So a long road, hoping possibly for another caution to come out if we see another caution, with a 56 machine in a great position, and it all goes up in flames.
Another car with a problem there. That's Mike Rigney in the 12. He now gets it back onto the racing surface, but fell all the way back to 18th place. It's up front. Battle is on for second, side by side, between Silman and Brophy.
And just because of the draft, Silman almost plowed right into our leader there, as Brophy on the outside, thinking about making a pass there. All these drivers on the same tire of length. They were all on 8-lap older tires compared to everyone else who's on 2.
Was side by side, and somehow they were able to close up that quickly on Brophy. And look at David Kolb throwing a block there on Brophy after making a pass on him for third. Brophy's going to try and battle back here. Can't quite do it as he almost got off course.
You got to remember, Kolb and Welker both on the freshest tires right now compared to the 2 cars in front of them. So they're going to be trying to get up front as quick as possible and try to pull away from everyone else.
Saw what big run Cass Silman had on Nicholas Johnston on that last lap here in the Speedway section. Let's see if he can do that again as they head towards NASCAR Turn 3.
And driving it deep, they're trying everything they can. But that run that they had side by side going into turn number 1, that was insane to see from Brophy and Silman.
Out here for 6th, Will Roberts and Mitchell Riggs. Riggs trying to swing around the outside.
Not going to be able to do so. Just didn't carry enough speed as... Oh, that time! Will Roberts spins it around!
I don't think there was contact, but Roberts does go around and now trying to get the car refired. Ooh, this is scary. Got to make sure that he doesn't get in front of an oncoming car.
And all drivers are almost all by him. The 12 machine will, and now he's clear. And Will Roberts will get going. But yeah, Will Roberts... That was the same spot we saw Gonzalez spin around and cause that last caution. But for now, we continue racing on as Silman still under pressure by the 11 machine.
Welker right there, Jason Brophy right there as well. It's a 4-car fight for the runner-up spot. This is going on almost a second. It is now a full second behind Nicholas Johnson. Look at Kolb. He's going to use the apron going into NASCAR Turn 3.
And makes it stick in that 11 machine, and he's used up 2 push-to-passes trying to get back up into second place. He's now got 6 left. And right now, Nick Johnston, he's still got 10 push-to-passes, hasn't used 1 all race.
Silman there in 3rd place still has
that was
all
Brophy that went off course.
Brings it back on, but not before losing the 5th position to Danny Roberts.
Just came in with too much speed and launched his car into the grass, but able to continue pushing forward, still in the top 10 for the 88 machine. But that could have been way worse than it was.
Definitely could have, as right now the car he's focused on is our race leader, Nicholas Johnston, because Johnston was only 5 points back from Brophy coming into this race after taking the checkers in the first race of the evening. But it's now mano a mano. It's Nicholas Johnston first, David Kolb in second, and Kolb has the fresher tires.
Fresher tires and has been running at about 2/10, sometimes 3/10 faster than Johnston. So this battle for the lead might not be it might not be as hard as Kolb originally thought, as these drivers are continuing to run around. A little update on cars. Looks like Owen Evans and Matt Hollaba both parked their cars for the rest of the day.
And Riley Thompson, we saw have that issue on the restart in turn 1.
Mitch Welker gets into Silman, and Silman spins it around.
Off course, so no caution going to come out, but that was for the 3rd position at the time. And you saw Riley Thompson just go by in the 56. He's been able to work his way up now to 9th. He just got around Rodrigo Munoz after we had his spin back on the restart.
I said watch out for Bommersbach. He's up to 8th at the moment, right behind Jason Brophy. And Bommersbach on those fresher tires compared to everyone else on course. And so that 37 machine running decently well at the moment.
Ooh, we had some contact nearly back there between Mitchell Riggs and Eric Gonzalez. That's for 7th. Gonzalez, that is Riley Thompson and Eric Gonzalez, rather. And remember, it was Gonzalez whose spin kind of led to the chain reaction wrecking that took place that brought out our first caution of this second race.
Riley Thompson is racing angry. When he spun out, got back on course, he was back in 16th position, already up to 8th, and he's trying to run as quick as our leaders are, but our top 3 just all ran a 104.8, and that is one of the fastest laps that we have seen in the past 3 laps.
You can always tell when a driver is either racing angry or frustrated. You remember back when we saw Will Roberts spin out of turn 2, how quickly he tried to get that car spun back around and get going, so much so he came back on track. That's when you know a driver is frustrated, when they're not willing to wait for the oncoming traffic to get by.
Yeah, they're trying to get going as quick as possible, and Riley Thompson might have gotten by Gonzalez, but just not able to continue as Gonzalez keeps on poking and just not letting the 56 machine go.
Both those drivers on the same lap number of tires. Rodrigo Munoz behind them as well. This 8th, 9th, and 10th battling it out right now.
I thought Kolb, with his fresher tires, would have been able to catch up to Mitch Welker. And right now, Welker is doing a fantastic job. That last lap, he actually ran better than Kolb, and he's continuing to do so. In this one machine, he is really putting on a show.
The only thing is, with both Kolb and Welker, while the both of them are running either somewhat similar or, in Welker's case, about a tenth to a tenth and a half faster than Nicholas Johnston, they are at a deficit as far as push to passes. Nicholas Johnston still has all 10. Kolb is down to 6. Welker only has 7.
And right now, Nicholas Johnson, he's had 2 cautions to try to save fuel. He might feel like he's got enough fuel in the tank to make it to the end. He pitted on lap 5, thought he can make it to the end. Let's see if he can do it. If we stay green, it's all about, does this one machine have enough fuel to make it to the end here?
Yeah, I mean, with the drivers that came to pit road under the first caution, the drivers that came to pit road under the second caution, we could maybe assume that everybody is good to go the rest of the way on fuel. And noticing the sun is starting to set here on the horizon of Homestead Miami Speedway, so we'll have to see if maybe the track starts cooling down a little, and these drivers have to maybe figure out what their cars do with some changing track conditions as we're into the second half of this race.
Now these racers are racing the clock on if they can get the race done before the sun goes down. There are some lights on this course, but I do not believe there are enough lights that will keep this course lit up when it's a road course. So these drivers trying to finish this before it gets too dark out there.
This is a battle for 11th. Sarah Tessum around the outside of Cass Silman, and she will complete the pass. Nope.
Whoa, Silman around.
Same thing that happened to Will Roberts, kind of getting pinched down there on the driver's left out of turn 2. Loops that car around and going to lose a ton of positions as a result.
Yeah, and Silman already had a bunch of rear end damage that was already affecting the aero and the downforce for that machine. So surprised that he was able to hold on as well as they were able to. But Silman, fantastic job on just keeping that car running as well as they did. And now they're going to have to go in the pits and try to get fixed. I take it back. They're going to be parking that 6 machine.
Silman, who had a top 10 run in the first race earlier on this evening, was 9th in the overall points coming to this one. And we saw with the fact that Kite Bommersbach finished outside of the top 15 in the race earlier on tonight, how we dropped 8 spots. Obviously, going to be a huge hit in the points for Cass Silman in the 6th. We got a driver around, I believe. Danny Roberts may have looped it around from the 5th position. I'm going to make that the 6th position.
And drops all the way back to 8th, able to get that thing refired. And also the battle for the lead. What was once a second gap between 1st and 2nd, it's now down to, it was less than a half a second, starting to gap a little bit. But now Mitch Welker is coming into the picture, making this a 3-horse battle.
And both Kolb and Welker have been able to close this gap up without using any more of their push to passes. So they still have the 6 and 7 respectively we talked about still in their hip pocket against the 10 that Nicholas Johnston has.
And Jason Brophy trying to keep the position he has. They'll use a push pass here on this coming into turn, what would be the oval turn number 3. What's turn 10 into 11 off into the front stretch as he's trying to hold off Bommersbach and that 37 machine who's up to 5th now.
And there is a difference of 6 laps between the tires of the 88 and the tires of the 37. So right now, give the advantage to Bommersbach. Not only that, but Bommersbach has 9 push-to passes as opposed to Brophy's 6. And don't look now, Riley Thompson. You see him back there behind Mitchell Riggs. He's up to 7th, and he's got 6th, 5th, and 4th within his sights.
The only problem for Riley Thompson right now is that if he was trying to battle for the lead, I would say if he had another 20 laps, possibly you could make it. But in the last 10 laps, he's only ran down 3 seconds. And at the moment, he is over 8 seconds away from our leader.
How about this? He's in the 7th position. He's back here in traffic. Last time by, ran the 2nd fastest lap that time around, only to Mitch Welker.
Yeah, only to Mitch Welker. And then after that, Nicholas Johnston ran just as fast as Mitch Welker, and so everyone's running very similar times at the moment.
0.7 of a second now, the gap from Johnston back to Kolb. Kolb just used another of his push to passes. It's now closed it up to half a second, and he's bringing Mitch Welker along with him.
Will Roberts and Evan Adams having some issues in the back as both of them loop it around, and it looks like Evan Adams got the worst of it as he dinged up the front end, I should say the rear end, off the wall.
Both these drivers struggled in the first race, are struggling here late in the second race. As up here towards the front, I see Mitch Welker back there in third, and I mentioned, I think it was back in the first race, that he finished second last season at Laguna Seca to Nicholas Johnston. It wasn't much of a battle as Johnston was able to gap everyone in that race, but right now Welker looks like he could be the one that Johnston's going to have to worry about.
Here's the thing, as we've been seeing Kolb trying to run down Johnson as much as he can, Johnson's on older tires, running some very quick laps, but he's using up those tires. Kolb was wasting his tires trying to get up to the one, and Mitch Welker kind of just been fading, he's just been waiting and lingering, and he's finally starting to use up his tires here later on in this run. He might have the freshest tires of our top three just based on how he's been saving them.
Well, right now I'm noticing too that David Kolb, yes, he is slowly closing up to Nicholas Johnston, but he's just used 2 push-to-passes in the last 3 laps, and he's not been able to gap Mitch Welker, who hasn't used any in the last 3 laps.
Yeah, Mitch Welker has been staying so close that the draft has been helping him whenever they get in the straightaways, and like I said, with him having the better tires at the moment, he's able to stay with this 11 machine much better through the corners than probably Kolb would like.
Yeah, another driver with an incident, I believe. Mitchell Riggs in the 36. He has now dropped back to the 7th position as a result.
Yeah, he was coming in trying to make a pass on Brophy, but was not able to. Just got on the brakes a little too hard and wiggled and threw himself into the sand pit. The 36 machine only dropped a couple positions back to 7th. We'll try to keep pushing forward. Riley Thompson up to 4th at the moment, but he's 7.8 seconds away from 3rd place.
Right now, in order for him to have a shot at this victory as he gets around the lap machine of John Wilco, the 62, he would have to close up somewhere around 2 seconds each lap.
And as we're 7 laps to go for our leaders, the push-to-passes are really interesting to look at. Right now, our leader, Nick Johnston, he's got 10 push-to-passes. Hasn't used one all race long, is in the lead with older tires, and we think that he could possibly make it to the end here on fuel. Just based on how he's running, I think he feels comfortable as well. You got David Kolb, who's got 4 push-to-passes. He's been using them a lot, trying to run down this one machine, just not working. Mitch Welker has 7. He hasn't used one since he's been running down these guys up to the top 2.
Well, Mitch Welker only ran part of the season last year. If he were to go to victory lane here tonight, I almost think that he might consider running the full season, because he was only 9 points back from the points lead coming into our 2nd race of the evening. So we'll see if it's going to come down between him and Nicholas Johnston. Kind of interesting, too, because we already talked about the fact that Welker was the crew chief for Johnston running towards that championship last season, and we'll see if Mitch Welker today is going to be the one to maybe take a 2nd W this evening from our race leader.
And other battles on track. A battle for 8th is going on, and Danny Roberts and Gonzalez almost making contact as that 41 machine trying to get by the 42, just not able to, as they're also pulling along Roberto Munoz, who's right behind them.
8th, 9th, and 10th position right there, separated by about 0.6 of a second. A little bit further up, another battle that's brewing. That's Kite Bommersbach closing back in on Jason Brophy. That would be for 5th.
All these guys trying to make the best moves that they can, and I've got to give credit to Riley Thompson. He's slowly inching his way closer and closer, but just not enough laps, as we are 6 coming to 5 laps to go.
And the field is so spread out now that the likelihood of a full course yellow would be slim to none. So it's basically you've got what you've got, as I believe David Kolb, no, I thought he used another push to pass, but no, he is still at 4. 7 for Welker, and Nicholas Johnston still there with 10. Only he and John Wilco and Curtis Yancey are the only drivers who have not used any of their push to passes today, but Johnson, oh no! The 42 of Gonzalez just got punted off the nose of Danny Roberts going through turn 2.
And after hitting Gonzalez out of the track, absolutely he got on the rumble strips, and when he came across the way, Munoz got on the back bumper of him, and around he went. Both Danny Roberts and Eric Gonzalez, heavy damage. And yet you just hate to see that type of action, as it looks like Gonzalez once again spun out again after that contact in front of Tessum.
There's the battle going on now for the 5th position. Kite Bommersbach had it closed up to a 10th. It now opens up there to about 0.4 of a second, but You hate to see it also in the closing stages of the race because both of those drivers looked like they were in line for a top 10 run. Roberts has at least held on to 9th place, but Gonzalez is now back to 12th. Here comes Bommersbach to the outside of Brophy.
Brophy on the older tires, trying to hold off the 37 machine, and still side by side. Oh, Brophy through the rumble strips, able to keep it straight. I don't know how that 88 machine did not spin around.
Drivers love to use the draft on the straightaway section and then use the heavy braking zone of turns 1 and 2, but that seems to be the tightest corner, which is why we're seeing a lot of the contact and a lot of the spins in that area of the track.
It's so heavy braking, like you said, and continuing with heavy braking. Mitch Welker came in digging it deep on the back bumper of the 11 machine as they're coming down the back stretch, coming into what would be turn 10 and 11, coming to the front stretch now. Who's going to use their push to passes here? As Kolb's only got 2 left, and we're coming to 3 laps to go.
And this is still going on about a half second behind Nicholas Johnston, and now the gap closed up. Boy, Kolb, I think that push to pass definitely worked for him to close the gap up between himself and the 1, but again, Nicholas Johnston, even if he gets past, he's got 10 push to passes to use.
Yeah, honestly, it's more of when Johnson feels pressured in these last couple of laps. When will he use those push passes? You know he's going to utilize them to try to keep in front of the drivers behind. But it's just, when do you want to use it? Possibly you could be using all 10 of them for the last 2 laps, because then he could just save, and then just whenever there's a straightaway, hit the button and always have the extra power advantage over the cars behind him.
Yeah, there's that long section from NASCAR turn 3 over through NASCAR turn 4. You've got the back straightaway and the front straightaway to work with. How long does a push to pass last for?
Push to passes last anywhere from 3 to 5 seconds. It matters on where you're coming from, but at the moment, I believe it's for about 5 seconds. As you're going to see, Kolb going to use a push to pass here on the front stretch.
Let's see if he can make the pass here through turns 1, 2. He drives it really deep round the outside. Can he make it stick? Johnston's going to have the advantage here into this left-hander, though.
And will hold off. Here comes Mitch Welker thinking about putting his nose, just was not able to do so, staying in third. As you're seeing our front 2 battling it out, Mitch Welker's kind of waiting there. Will you 2 wreck each other, and I'll just take the lead?
Well, he's going to have one more push to pass to use here. Coming to the white flag, will David Kolb. Will he use it this time around, or will he wait until the white flag lap? Welker's now got 4 left. Johnston's still there with his 10, and he may start using them when we get back to the speedway section here with 2 laps to go.
And coming down through the back stretch, coming into turn number 10, Nicholas Johnston going to be trying to hold off both the 11 and the 76 on the older tires. Both of these guys, the 11 and 76, have the 6-lap fresher tires than the 1, but Nicholas Johnston coming to the white flag. He's looking dominant to win 2 races in a row.
He used his push to pass coming onto the speedway section. Kolb used his final one in the middle of NASCAR turns 3 and 4. Now it's going to be Welker that's left with 1. Can he get around the 11 and have a shot at the 1 here in the final lap?
Welker's got 3, now using 1 right here. 2 left for that 76 machine, but he's got to get by Kolb immediately. He cannot wait for the 11 to make a mistake. He's got to try to get under him in one of these straightaways before he gets to the backstretch.
Nicholas Johnston going to be doing a lot of mirror driving here when we get to the speedway section to see where Welker might be. Welker just used up another one. He's got 1 left as he's trying to get around the 11. Can't do it. Nicholas Johnston continuing to use his push to passes. He's now down to 7, heading down the home stretch.
And he'll probably be pushing them constantly, trying to utilize every single one of those push passes. Mitch Welker is going to utilize his last one here on the outside of the 11 machine, trying to go for second.
Nicholas Johnston down to 7 as he's got a half-second lead, and he'll cross the line and double down tonight at the Homestead Miami Road Course.
And Kolb's going to be able to hold off the 76 and Mitch Welker to get third.
It all was a game of chess, it seemed like, there at the very end of who was going to use their push to passes and who was not. And Nicholas Johnston, just to show the strength of that race car, how he was able to keep that car out in front, never used a push to pass until 2 laps to go.
Yeah, I mean, I got to give credit on other machines out here. Jason Brophy somehow got a 6th place finish with the way his race started here in the second race of the night. I'm surprised to see that 88 machine in the top 10.
Great comeback for Riley Thompson in 4th. And how about Kite Bommersbach after the hardships of the first race this evening in the 20-lapper? Going to bring it home top 5 in the 30-lap event.
Well, we didn't get to see green flag pit stops, but a little bit of strategy thrown out here and there as Johnson came in with 5 laps into the race. We got lucky with the pit stop that helped them out to save more fuel, and that one machine able to hold off everyone else off during this race.
Number of other drivers that didn't finish in the top 10 in the earlier race got top 10s here. Rodrigo Munoz in 7th. Sarah Tessum brings it home in 9th. Eric Gonzalez there in the 10th position as well as we look on down through the rest of the results. And some of the guys that ran well here in the first race struggling in this second race. Danny Roberts down in 15th. Cass Silman down in 18th. And tough break there for Cohen Evans, who started P1 for this second race of the evening. Ended up wrecked and behind the wall, finishing in 20th place.
Yeah, it's for both Evans and Hollabaugh, both of them had extremely quick cars. It's one of those things of, like I said, you need a little bit of luck to help out. And I got to say, this race was way more surprising than the first one. I was expecting these drivers to possibly go for us to go green for most of the race, and us having as many cautions as we did, it was kind of a shocker.
It really was, because as we mentioned in the first race, we went the entirety of last season at the road courses that I recall. There was no full course yellow ever in that one. We had 3 in the course of the 2 races that we had here this evening. But I think maybe a big reason for that was just based on the fact that we had a big field. We had them all in close proximity to each other. And the braking zones just seemed to be a little bit, I don't know, somewhat different than some of the other tracks we've gone to, where these drivers weren't quite sure if their car was going to come to a stop or not.
Yeah, the braking zones was the key factor on why these drivers were so off from one another, but it's so weird to see how off they were today. But overall, a great race from top to bottom for us to see all the action. It was so much fun for us to talk about. But let's get some thoughts from our drivers, as I believe we're starting to get some of the drivers ready to go.
We are indeed. Let's get our 3rd place finisher, Mitch Welker. Mitch, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, a 3rd place run here today in the second race, and you finished top 5 in the first race as well, so great numbers here tonight at Homestead. But if you had been able to get around that 11 car, did you have anything for Nicholas Johnson on that final lap?
I'm not sure about Nick. He does really well with conserving his car, conserving his push-to-pass. I had 7 push-to-pass with 2 to go, so I was burning it all every single straight. But even when you're on the button in 3 and 4, you're the way the gearing was set up, you'll top out in 5th or you go to 6th, and it just kind of stops going. So that's why I couldn't get past the 11 there on the final lap. I would have been happy with 2nd, but I think 3rd place is something I definitely need to take home and be okay with here.
Well, we know that you drivers wanted to use your push-to-passes, especially on the straightaway sections, the speedway sections. We saw you guys use it a lot on the front straightaway. There was a moment where both you and the 11 were battling for 2nd place, and the 2 of you, while battling with each other, got right up to the back bumper of Johnston in the 1 going into turn 1. It was a scary moment for us. How scary is it for a driver to carry so much speed into that corner with such tight racing?
Your side-by-side is definitely a little iffy. I did it quite a few times in the first race. I'm sure you saw. So you just got to commit. You can't be backing out if you want to keep the position there. So it's just part of it. It's part of the trek. So it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, I mean, Mitch, compared to the first race, that was more of just a sprint, and there wasn't a reason for you guys to come into the pits. To this race where you knew you had to come in at least one time, what was the different mindsets coming into both those races?
The sprint race, definitely, it's a sprint. So the idea is to just get to the front as fast as you can, because once anyone breaks away, you're not going to have the slipstream down the oval, and then you're pretty much done. As you saw in the first race, the top 3 pulled away, top 2, whatever, couldn't stick with them, but I was able to keep with them this time. At least for when we did race. I think the second caution in the second race definitely neutered any kind of fuel strat I would have had. I would have gone long personally, gone to like lap 20 because that's how far the tank goes, and just gone light fuel, fresh tires at the end, but never really happened. Yeah, the strategy didn't play out as I think the admins had intended with the caution, but still it was pretty exciting.
You talk about the timing of that second caution kind of taking out the strategy of who can make it on fuel and who can't, but it definitely made it interesting as far as lining you guys all back up on a restart. Even though it's a single file restart, how difficult is it to try and pick your way through the field or to be able to keep track of everyone around you, waiting for that moment when everybody's going to start getting spread out and being able to concentrate in their own braking zones?
Definitely, you need to get a good jump. You need to have a good sense of racecraft if you want to be making spots up on these restarts. And then using maybe a push to pass on the initial outlap, coming onto the oval portion just to break away from the guy behind you if you can. Because if you get passed by him, likely he's got someone behind him that's going to freight train you as well. So you got to protect what you got on the first lap of the restart. And then from there, if you can pull the gap to the guy behind and stick with the guy in front, it's just all about settling in and figuring out what kind of pace you have.
Well, Mitch, obviously, tremendous night for you. You finish in the top 5 2 times here this evening at Homestead, Miami. We're going to let you do some shout-outs now.
Shout out to Sarah Tessum, her first road race in this car. I'm not sure how she finished, to be honest. I didn't look at the results, but she did qualify well in both times, and is a really solid road racer, got to say. To the rest of the Project 2 team, sticking behind me and being just great group of guys. I just got to take these results. I'd like to be higher up, but I'll take these and look to improve for next time.
Well, that's Mitch Welker. Back-to-back top 5s here this evening. Situates him 3rd in the points heading to Texas next week. We wish you luck there, and congrats on some great performances here tonight.
Thanks very much.
And we didn't get to talk to him after his 3rd place run here in the first race, but we're going to get to talk now to tonight's 2nd race runner-up, David Kolb. David, it's Sam and Seth up in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Yep.
Well, first time that we've seen you here in the RaceTrackDesigns IndyCar series, and what a show you put on tonight. 3rd place in the first race, 2nd place here tonight in the 2nd race. What was it like from the driver's seat?
It's pretty fun. I enjoyed having 2 separate races, one shorter, one longer. But, I put together some solid pace. I didn't qualify too good in race 1, but I think I found a bit in the race and, got better.
Let's talk about that battle that was going on for the lead at one point there. You, the 1, the 76, all in close proximity. And then, of course, there on the final 2 laps, you guys were duking it out for the race win. You were using your push-to-passes there on those final 3 laps. What, if anything else, did you need to maybe reel Johnston in for that win?
It's tough. Nick played it really well with the strategy there, pitting on that first stop. I didn't think I could make it on fuel, so I decided not to pit on that stop. And then, I figured because Nick was so low on fuel, he couldn't really use his push-to-passes. So I tried to kind of catch him out early there. I think on lap 29, I sent it in. And, by the end of the race, I was just all out of push-to-passes.
Yeah, David, from that first stint, you think with having the fresher tires than Nick, it helped you stay close to that one machine late in this race?
I think so. I felt like me and Nick were pretty close on pace, and I was pretty surprised how quick he was, mid part of the race in those older tires. So it's kind of tough to say how the tire wear works on this car, but.
You brought up the fact of, it was great to have 2 races here tonight. We had the 20-lap sprint for the first race, 30 laps, and a potential pit stop in the second race. What, if anything, from the first race were you able to take away and apply in the second 30-lapper?
I think just more practice, and I kind of could anticipate, how much a push-to-pass helped you. I tried to manage mine a bit better in race 2 because I kind of used them up fairly quickly when I was battling in race 1. But, it was nice to have that race because I didn't practice too much beforehand. So I kind of got, 20 laps of practice per se, obviously in a race. But, I was more prepared for race 2.
Well, David, obviously, as we said, your debut here tonight, top 3 in both races at the Homestead Miami Road Course. Great performance for you here this evening. We're going to let you do some shout-outs now.
I got to thank Nick for helping me out. We're teammates in the series, and yeah, he ran a really good race. And I got to thank Gresham and Connor for helping us out on spotting and doing fuel calculations and stuff. And yeah, you guys for running the series. And yeah.
That's David Call, brings it home. P2 here tonight in the second race, P3 in the first race. Back-to-back podium finishes here tonight at Homestead, Miami. Congrats on the great runs.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And we talked to him in victory lane the first time, had to kind of let him go quickly for the second race. We'll get to talk to him a little bit longer now. Let's talk to two-time winner for the season now, Nicholas Johnston. Nick, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us again?
Yes, sir.
Well, back-to-back here at Homestead Miami Road Course, but we learned from the guys that were trying to reel you in, you were kind of low there on fuel. Just how close was it?
I wasn't able to do any burnouts there at the end, that's for sure. I crossed the line with the leader left. That incident in the first lap between me and Jason was almost a blessing because under that first caution, I knew I needed the front wing replaced, and did some math on the fuel. Some of the guys helped me out, and I was going to go to the end there, and then we got the second caution, and I was able to stay out. I thought Riley was going to do the same thing because we were both pitted the same lap under that caution, but it put me out in the lead, and I just had to do lift and coast for maybe 10 laps there, and I was hitting my numbers, and I was looking good to go, so worked out.
You know, Sam and I were sitting up here in absolute shock because we looked at 5 laps to go. Everybody up inside the top 10 had used at least one of their push-to-passes. You're sitting there with all 10 still. How are you able to keep the pace, especially with you saying you were trying to save some fuel there? How are you able to keep the pace, hold those guys at bay, and not have used a push-to-pass up to that point?
Really, it was just slow in, fast out. I was letting off way early, lifting and coasting, saving fuel in every corner. And that was allowing me to square up the exits and get in the throttle hard. So I was actually able to gap David like 2/10 off the hairpin onto the backstretch every lap. And that gave me enough room where I didn't have to utilize the push to pass just to stay ahead, because that was going to burn more fuel and be like counteractive to my entire strategy at that point. So it worked out for me, able to get a little bit of a gap and hold them off. And then with 2 to go, I kind of looked at the numbers and I was like, all right, now or never. We're going to either make it or not. And I had to start getting on the button because David was getting too close.
Yeah, I mean, Nick, we're seeing the same blueprints of how you won the championship last season of winning the road courses. How are you so quick at these road courses and so consistent at the same time?
The IndyCar is a different beast to drive around some of these road courses, even though it's an open wheel car and it's got a lot of power and a lot of downforce. It seems like it just suits my driving style. Brake deep, get in there, get the car turned and throttle off. Not a whole lot of mid-corner speed. It's still a bigger car and a little heavy. So I think that just kind of suits my driving style. And I mean, luckily I've been able to stay out of trouble for the most part, except, tonight we had that little bit of an issue, but luckily cautions fell in my favor and we're all right.
Yeah, I want to quickly talk, Nick, as well about track conditions, because when we ran the 20-lap, or we were running in the late afternoon conditions, sun started setting here in this 30-lap event. So did you feel any difference in the track and the way the car handled between the 2 races?
Oh yeah, the track was completely different. One reason was we didn't have an hour of practice to rubber in the circuit, so there was no rubber on the track for the most part in that race. And then with the cooler track temps, we're burning a little bit more fuel, and there was a little bit more grip. So that kind of all played factors into the whole thing, but for the most part, it was pretty much the same. Just a little bit more grip, a little bit more fuel burn, less rubber on track.
Well, we talked about the hardship you had last week on that last restart at Motegi, but back-to-back wins here tonight at Homestead put you back atop the point standings heading into Texas next week. And we're going to let you do some shout-outs again.
Yeah, thanks once again for you guys for broadcasting, doing this stuff week in, week out. You do a great job. Fuel Racing League, putting this on. Force Esports, we got a 1-2 tonight, so that's a great finish for the team. Letting people know that we're a force to be reckoned with for sure. I got to thank Josh Gresham, the con man, for all doing some fuel calc for me during that last bit. They took a lot of load off of my hands trying to do math in my head because it's taking about everything I got up there just to get around the track. And David for a great finish. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you very much, guys.
Well, that's Nicholas Johnston. He did indeed double down here tonight at the Homestead Miami Road Course. Congrats on 2 great victories. Go enjoy them. And so, not one, but two races complete here this evening at Homestead, Miami for the Fuel Racetrack Designs IndyCar Series. And Sam, I think you hit it right on the head. We're back to the road course configurations. It's the same blueprints that Nicholas Johnston followed last year when he was able to take the championship.
Yeah, he got 4 road course wins last season and only 1 oval win that helped him out and win that championship. He was just consistent everywhere. And honestly, with the way that the season started last week at Twin Ring Motegi, I was kind of concerned that maybe there is a curse about winning a championship last season and then the next season you just don't do well. But Nicholas Johnson already getting 2 wins here this season. And I'm pretty sure with those 2 wins, it puts him on top of the board in points.
It definitely does. He is now the points leader by 4 points over Jason Brophy. Mitch Welker currently 10 points back in third. Riley Thompson 4 points back. Or make that fourth in the stands, 13 points back right now. The only 4 drivers within 15 points of the race leader, the points leader. An interesting thing too, you bring up the fact about him only having 1 win at a Speedway last season. I just took a quick glance at the schedule. We just finished up the 2 races here at Homestead, Miami. The only other road courses we're going to this season are the Detroit Belle Isle Grand Prix, Silverstone, Road America, and Watkins Glen. There's a lot more speedways here on the schedule than there were last season.
Yeah, a lot more speedways, and I think that's going to be helping Jason Brophy get back onto track and where he wants to be up front. Because that 88 machine, when we go back to speedways, he is always quick and always someone to watch out for to get a win.
So we will be seeing some more Speedway action. That'll be next week when we go to the D-shaped 1.5-mile Texas Motor Speedway. Nighttime conditions for the Lone Star Indy 200. 134 laps will take place in that one. It's going to be a good points battle between our 2 race winners this season. Nicholas Johnston, who wins twice here this evening. Jason Brophy, who won last week. And of course, throw Welker and Thompson into the mix as well. That race will be taking place next week, August 6th. And we will be going green at 8:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But Sam, as always, appreciate you joining me in the booth for not 1 but 2 races here this evening.
It's always a pleasure there, Seth.
Thanks to everybody for tuning in this evening. Hope you guys enjoyed our coverage as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.